Hi, this is Linda West with Living Live, and today I have the pleasure and honor to introduce to you Mitzi Montague-Bauer. Now, she has Journey's Dream. She's going to share with us what Journey's Dream is, what mental illness is, and how you can recognize when people in your family have mental illness issues and what you can do about it. So, Mitzi, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Linda. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Now, why don't you share with the audience, what Journey's Dream is? And while you're sharing that, I'm going to pull up your website to show people so they can just see what the website is all about while you're talking about it. Go ahead.
Yep. Journey's Dream is a nonprofit organization that is founded by myself, my husband, my daughter, and a colleague, Mark Haddis. And it was born from the desire to have mental health solutions, all mental health solutions in one place. In 2009, my son Journey was diagnosed with a mental illness after graduating university. And he was told that, I think what a lot of people are told who have a mental illness, that there was no cure, that he would be dependent on medication for life. And the best that he could hope for would be to manage his symptoms. And he kind of railed against that medication for life thing, was on and off medication, in and out of hospitals. And all the while he was struggling to navigate his world, I was searching exhaustively for solutions, for doctors or any practitioner who had solutions for true recovery. I understood the benefit of medication, and I know that it saves lives and it's important to help a person become stable. But I was looking for a physician who could actually get to the root of the problem and help my son actually be restored to wellness. And I had a hard time finding those practitioners, but I kept searching. But eventually, by the time I felt like I met doctors or had solutions that could have helped him, he had been in and out of the hospital, forced medication so many times that he isolated himself, and he wasn't open to help any longer. After 4 years of struggling, he died. He stepped off a building and ended his life. And I always wondered what, in the beginning, when he was first symptomatic, he was open to help, but I didn't really know how to help him. We didn't know how to help him. We did the best that we could. But I always wondered what would have happened if I would have had the solutions that I had at the end, if I'd had them in the beginning, if I would have known more. That old hindsight thing.
Yeah.
So at Journey's Memorial, I met Mark Haddis. And Mark is a successful entrepreneur who built and sold a IT company. And in his late 30s, after selling the company, was pretty much set for life, he and his wife and 5 children. But a few months after selling the organization, or selling his company, he found himself in a psychiatric hospital. And he also was told something similar that my son was told: this is a lifetime illness and there's no known cure, and take your medication. He was able to find a medical doctor and a psychiatrist who did have solutions for restoring wellness. And while he was on medication for a couple of years, and he would admit that it probably saved his life, he also knew that it was only temporary. And between the help of his 2 medical doctors and then a program that is rooted in the ancient Aramaic tradition of forgiveness, those 3 prongs were able to support him in finding recovery, true wellness. He's not only thriving, he's doing remarkably well, and he's medication free and symptom free. And so those were the doctors I was looking for my son, but didn't find them. So Journey's Dream is a nonprofit organization designed to be a resource hub where a person can go for trusted resources. And the difference with Journey's Dream, I think, than some of the other programs is that we're all inclusive. We recognize that medication has a place, but once a person is stable on medication, that is the time to begin looking for what caused the divided thinking in the first place.
Mm.
My son's doctors felt that if he was educated about his disease and he was on medication, they were successful. That was the end really of the care. But
Okay.
at that point, once he was stable, that was when I really wanted help, whether it was, and probably with him, since he had experienced a traumatic event, some form of trauma therapy would have been helpful. For some people, it would be spiritual leader would be helpful, or nutritionist, or heavy metal toxicity, or doctors that are experienced with neuropsychiatry, which has to do with the autoimmune diseases and psychosis. I just learned this week that 95% of the receptor sites for serotonin are in the gut. So there are
Oh, really?
yes, there's remarkable things on the horizon that are not well known, and we would love to shine the light on them and have people be aware that there are options. And so that's our vision, that all people can be well and experience optimal health and well-being. And our mission is to connect those touched by mental health challenges with programs and resources. One, that provide hope, and two, that actually have modalities for supporting wellness.
Well, let me ask you some questions. So related to Journey, I'm really sorry to hear of his death. But how old was he when he was diagnosed?
He was 22.
22.
He was in college, and he was attacked coming home from a party. Several men attacked him. He didn't know who they were,
Mm-hmm.
and the bruises and the bumps healed from that, but some part of him didn't heal from that, and that's when we started noticing some odd behaviors and such. But he finished college, and when he moved home, then that's when we really began to see these behaviors that weren't normal, I guess, didn't seem normal to us. They were odd behaviors, and he was struggling to navigate. And so that's when we began looking.
So how do you, because it really begs, there's a lot of questions, right, around mental illness. And so a family member, because like you noticed there was something odd, something wasn't right. And so what do you do at that point? And at that time, you didn't have all the information that you have now. So now, if you could take all the knowledge that you've gained in these last several years, if you could take that, what would your advice be to somebody in a family who notices a different behavior? Was his caused by that beating? Was it caused by that, or I
don't know if it was caused by that or if it was a trigger.
Right.
I know that he shared with me briefly that he had done a ecstasy trip, a drug trip. Tried it one time, and it's supposed to be a happy experience, but he was limited with what he would share with me, but he told me he would not advise it. It was not a good experience for him. And what I think happened, and I'll get back to to answer your question, but what I think may have happened is that Journey was always perceptive and kind of had a profound sense of intuition anyway, kind of a porous person. And I think when he took that drug trip, the filters in his mind kind of just blew wide open. We all have these reduction valves. If all this information's available, then we have these reduction valves that kind of keep us in here. And when he did that drug trip, it just blew his mind wide open, I think. And he liked it. He was out there navigating all these different dimensions. And so I think what would have been helpful was, rather than telling him that, his brain was broken, that we kind of set people up well, your brain's the enemy, or there's a hardware problem or something. Mm-hmm. And I think if someone would have said, we get that you're experiencing these other realities, but we're not. I get that you're having all this dimensional travel, but we're not. And you need to learn how to navigate here as well. You live here. And that would have been a different message than, you're making this all up. It's not really happening, because he was brilliant. And a lot of people who are diagnosed with mental illness are, right on that genius spectrum. And he was really smart. And I think if we could have met him there, rather than giving him the message that he was broken and he was broken for life, and that the best he could hope for was to manage his symptoms. And, that's a hopeless message.
Yeah.
And, I would have taken him to the doctors I've met now who actually have more success in treating schizophrenia or bipolar by looking at processes like overmethylation in the body, or copper imbalances, or what have you, gut issues.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have asked more questions of him rather than telling him what I thought was going on. I would have asked him more, and then just really listened to and met him at, here's the thing. The most people who are diagnosed are brilliant, and they have hopes and dreams and ideas for their future and insecurities like all the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't go away with a mental illness diagnosis. That brilliant, intelligent person is still there. And that which makes us human doesn't go away. And so, meeting people where they are, I think is vitally important.
Yeah. Wow. And I imagine for, a lot of families, especially when they don't have the resources yet because they haven't stepped into that area, having Journey's Dream and all the resources that you guys do have, you're providing this area, like one place where they can go and they can find out all this information that can help them to ask the right questions and help guide them in the right journey of Journey's Dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We one of our biggest hopes, and this is going to go live this year, still in December, is a practitioner network where a person can enter their postal code wherever they are and
mm-hmm.
find practitioners near them who are in alignment with our vision and mission, which is people can get well, and provide a message of hope. There will be psychiatrists and medical doctors, trauma yoga therapists, nutritionists, spiritual leaders, because it's just not one, there's not one answer for everybody. And
right.
Everybody has a different background and a different reason for the experiences they're having. And so there just isn't a cookie cutter answer. And so we hope that people will be guided once they find our network to find a practitioner, a doctor that can guide them along the process of true recovery.
And that's great. I like how you guys, you vet out the people to make sure that they follow along with your vision and your mission, because
we don't actually vet them. We thought we would, but there's a it's kind of a long story. We originally naively thought that we would just need a little paragraph on our website to say, gosh, we're just pointing you in a direction of practitioners, and that we're not getting a cutback from them. But there's a lot of legal things behind that. So we're not vetting them per se, but we are, we're meeting with them, we're speaking with them. And if they're in alignment with our vision, which is people can get well, and they do believe that people can truly recover from mental illness and they have solutions, then we welcome them.
Okay, gotcha. So I put that word out there. So I'm glad you corrected it though, because that's really important, right? Because it has to make sure that whatever message I'm saying is the right message. So that's awesome. I love it. And so what is your vision, say, like in the next 5 years, by 2025, like the next 6 years?
By 2025, I hope that the whole landscape known as mental illness is transformed. And what I think is necessary for that to happen is a more integrated approach to wellness, that the different medical models will broaden their perspectives enough to recognize that there's something more. All Journey psychiatrists, and there were many of them, brilliant human beings, compassionate, loving people, most of them told us, this is imperfect. I'm sorry, but this is what we have. It's an imperfect solution. And so we have to just keep asking and looking and understand that there's so much more, and just, we're not finished until this, mental illness is looked at differently. And part of that is also having dialogue, conversations that, begin in the homes and then in communities, and then hopefully changing the national conversation, the global conversation. I mean, 1 in 4 people will be diagnosed with a mental illness in their lifetime.
Wow.
If that's not you, then it's someone you know or love. And we don't have the luxury of looking away anymore and pretending that this isn't happening to someone around us or near us. And so talking about it, having conversations about it, giving messages of hope, you know, acknowledging that there are solutions, and that solutions, those solutions that are less known need to be funded and researched, metrics gained, so that we can, you know, be spreading the word.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, you know, for mental illness, I know like there's varying ranges, right? You have like a mild and all the way till like a, I don't know the right word to use. Yeah, but it's interesting because as I dive into a different area in my life, you know, I jumped into entrepreneurship 4 years ago. I'm meeting different people. I'm meeting people who are extremely brilliant people, like, you know, not having mental illness that I know of. But what I'm finding and discovering is that the more I hang out with those people, that I'm seen as somebody who, like, something's wrong with me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm not the norm anymore. I'm not my normal Linda that I was 4 years ago before I left my corporate job. And so, you know, some people in my immediately family have been, you know, not saying things that like there's something mentally wrong with me, but have been like, there's something different about you. It's so different. I don't know if it's right. You know what I mean? It's like what was my norm is no longer my norm. And so their perception of me is changing. But
right. And here's the thing. I think we all are on some variation of insanity at some point in our life. And for me, I describe insanity when we're disconnected from our source and love. We all are born as pure love. We all come in that way. I've had the privilege as a doula of holding 500 babies.
Wow.
And I can assure you that every single newborn baby when they get here is pure love. And we're all that. And so when we're disconnect from that, when we buy into hostility and fear of the world, then yeah, there's levels of insanity. We have a program, and you said in 5 years, where would we be? We have a program that is a 13-week program called the Optimal Being Program, and it's an online program based off of Dr. Michael Rice's work, which is rooted in the ancient Aramaic tool of forgiveness, true forgiveness, which is not letting someone else off the hook, which is actually pardoning, but we tend to call that forgiveness. But true forgiveness is healing and releasing what's inside of us that doesn't belong. And so the Optimal Being Program, gosh, we've done a few pilot programs, and people are having profound results. And what it's doing is it's leading people back to that optimal being, which we all have within us. And that's where true sanity lies, when we're functioning from the truth of who we are. And so that's one of the programs that I'm so excited about, because you can balance your chemistry, but if you don't deal with the root cause of what caused that divided thinking in the first place, then you're not going to get optimal results. So that program's profound. It's a 13-week program, and we're working to automate it now, make it more scalable, but getting profound results. So in 5 years, that will be up and running, and every person would have access to it. That would be one of my visions for our nonprofit.
Okay, so when that launches, how can people find out about that? You know,
they can look on journeysdream.org under our programs.
Okay.
And it's called the Optimal Being Program. And currently, right now, we're just starting one. I think Monday's the cutoff date. 15 people can take it at a time. It's online, done on a Zoom call. There's 4 personal mentoring sessions, which a lot of people find just profoundly helpful. And then the course. And the course is fun. It's just designed to be fun and enlightening, and people are getting really good results from it. So.
Okay, so that's awesome. That's congratulations. And I see a lot of great stuff happening for you guys, and you helping, people, know, on the planet, see mental illness in a different way, in a way that they can actually help people. So what do you say, what's your recommendation? Say, for example, I'm going along and I see a family member where I'm thinking that, something's off, something's a little bit different. What would be the step for me to take to, because you can't convince somebody that there's something wrong with them.
Nope.
They have to see it themselves. So how do you kind of like go through that kind of conversation with somebody?
And that's the rub, really. I mean, 2/3 of people, this according to the World Health Organization, 2/3 of those with a known brain disorder don't seek help. And I think that many of them don't feel that they need help,
Right.
Which is addressing the question you just offered. But many of them do. And there's fear involved, and there's the fear of being judged or ostracized within the community. I can't tell you how many times Journey apologized during his illness, like, tearful apologies, as though what was happening to him was somehow his fault. So changing that whole dialogue has to happen. But to address your question, how to have a conversation with a person, ask them, and along with asking has to be messages of hope. The reason people don't want to acknowledge that there's something wrong is because look at the prognosis. It's like a lifetime sentence.
Yeah.
And we feel that we'll just, have this big sign on our forehead. And so, I would say, I've met people that have these, profound programs. If you feel like you'd like to know more about it, let me know. I'm curious. I'm going to check it out. Ask them questions. And here's an important thing that we don't address, and I didn't know this. I knew it, but I didn't know it to the degree I know it now, is that there's a lot of fear around mental illness. And part of that's portrayed by media, but there's a lot of fear when we see a family member that doesn't seem to be navigating well.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, address the fear within ourselves, because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If we come to them fearful, first of all, most people, again, with a mental illness, they're perceptive, they're intuitive, and they're brilliant. So if you're coming with your own fear, they're going to be like, no, thank you. But if you're clear and you're coming from a place of clarity within yourself, then you're more likely to reach them. And so ultimately, all work is our inner work.
All work is our inner work.
I mean, it is. We have to, God, I wish I didn't know. I mean, I knew that intellectually when I was, trying to help Journey, but I was just so fearful of his future and of what he was being told, and just the prognosis and what I was seeing happening. I was fearful. And when we're in fear, our intelligence is compromised. Let's face it. We all know that. So, right.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm functioning from this fearful, stupid place of like, oh, crazy, trying to help. And he knew it. When I did have peaceful moments, he was very receptive to me. But when I was fearful and, coming at it like, I've got to fix you, he didn't want anything to do with it. So first address ourselves.
Well, and that has nothing to that, like that's just a common human trait. I mean, with anything, if somebody's, if somebody says, I can fix you, and you don't think you need to be fixed, then you're like, stay away. Like, no matter what, it doesn't matter what it is. So I
think probably making it personal. If you have a family member, just like owning what's going on for you, and owning what you're seeing and what you're experiencing, and first and foremost, getting clear on your own fear if you have it.
Yeah. And attacking them is not the way to go, for sure, because that will distance you.
Always.
Sure.
Always.
Well, you said the World Health Organization, only 1/3 actually will seek help. So maybe with your program that will turn that number around. So it's 2/3 are seeking help. And then
we would love that. I mean,
100%.
That would be helpful, right? That would be helpful. And I think if there were, programs that people knew that they could really turn it around, the hopeless message is, it just has to change. You can't expect people to, a 22-year-old, my son, brilliant, had his whole life ahead of him. Mm-hmm. Just, it was just a hopeless message. And I kept looking for someone to provide a different message. And so I think when people know that, oh gosh, maybe, I think depression and anxiety people are more willing to own, but when we start bordering on psychosis or whatever, then it's more difficult. And truthfully, mania, people like mania, it's kind of euphoric for them sometimes. And that goes back to the message of, gosh, I see that you're having this, euphoric experience, and that's okay, but you also have to learn to navigate here. And that's a different message than you're broken and, we have to stop this manic experience you're having, because a lot of them don't want to stop it. And yeah, it's just a different message. I think if we just broaden our perspectives as to what is really going on. And medication, again, it has its place. I know many people that are alive because of it, but it's only a part of the solution, I think. And that really, if we acknowledge that its job is to suppress the symptoms that they're having, but really does nothing to the underlying cause of why those symptoms are happening in the first place. So that would be more functional psychiatry or integrative psychiatry, which that branch of medicine is really interested in looking at the root cause. And so a person could, Google in their area until we have our network up and running, or even if we do, those doctors and what may be causing that. And there may be psychiatric medication involved, but it's not just designed to suppress the symptoms. It's, stabilizing the person and then just in the first place resolved. Oh, I see that you're frozen. Oh, maybe not. I thought you froze for a moment.
Yeah, it's funny because you froze for a moment too. So that's the beauty of this. Like that's what's really cool though, if you think about it, is this internet thing, right? We're able to communicate. We're in totally different states.
I love it.
Yeah, and so we're still able to get the message out, even though there is some instability on the internet. We might have our own instabilities, right?
We all do.
We also have internet instability. Well, it's interesting because as you're talking here, I was thinking about how often there are people out there who might appear to have some sort of mental illness, and they like you said, talking to Journey, well, you got to spend some time here too, basically, right. You could spend time up there, but make sure you spend some time here too, so that you're
learn how to navigate here, because this is the world you live in.
Exactly. Right. Be grounded, basically, I guess, kind of. Yeah. And so it's interesting because there are people who, do practice, going into different realms and things like that, which is really, really interesting, but keeping themselves planted here on earth is really important, and making that connection. And so it's like, I almost feel like if you want to talk about those things, talk about them to people who get it. You know what I mean? Like, so that way other people don't think you're crazy.
Sometimes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I know how else to say that. I just realized that I probably didn't say that the politically correct way.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. I think we all know what you meant.
Yeah. Well, I battled with that myself. And so I'm talking to myself, really. So
I think a lot of us do. I mean, I remember sitting in a boardroom with, a whole psychiatric team when Journey was first hospitalized, cutting edge facility. And they were talking to us like, okay, so, give us more information about Journey as a kid, and, asking questions. And one thing that stuck in my mind is that we're in a boardroom discussing his life and future, and Journey tapped on the door and asked if he could be a part of the meeting, and he was told that he couldn't. No, not this time. And that was devastating to me at the time. And I understood it. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to be talking about him, and maybe it's not ideal to have him a part of the meeting, but that set up a division too.
Oh, right.
But, and I don't know where I was going with that. Actually, I think I was leading off to something else, but that little image came into my mind of him just being told no, he couldn't participate. But what were we talking about before?
Oh, yeah, just talking about how all of us probably have that,
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're asking us about our family or whatever, and I had this experience when Journey was a toddler, and we were in a workshop, and it was in a plush hotel, and he's 2 years old or whatever. He was getting a little antsy, so I pulled him out of the workshop, and I'm running down the hall in this hotel chasing him. Oh, I'm going to get you, and he's squealing with delight and fell, and everything slowed down to slow motion, like really slow motion, and frame by frame by frame, I watched as his head passed through the steel enforced wall. Like he was heading for it, but then everything slowed down, and I watched all the molecules separate, and I watched his, he fell to the floor, but no contact. And that was a profound moment for me of just like, wow, matter doesn't really exist after, I know physicists tell us that it's all energy or whatever, but I saw that happen. So the doctors are like, any unusual things with Journey as a child? I'm like, well, I had that thought. I'm like, if I tell them that, they'll think I'm crazy too. Like that was the thought, was like, I could tell them that, but then they're going to like lock me up. But we all have spiritual experiences or profound experiences that don't always translate here, that are meaningful to us, but don't always mean something to someone else. And so be careful. Choose who you talk to those things. Choose carefully who you speak to. And maybe that's the difference.
There we go. Yeah, because some people, I'm like all the times you see on Facebook, no filter, hashtag no filter. But sometimes you want to have that filter,
Sometimes it's appropriate to have that filter.
Choose your choice, choose your places wisely.
Yeah.
So, well, on that note, why don't you share with us, the like how people can get a hold of you, and then talk about, I saw that you have, spot for volunteers on journeysdream.org. And so why don't you share with us about like your volunteer needs and what it is that you guys need in order to further Journey's Dream?
Well, first and foremost, we need awareness, of course. So if there are people who need hope and would benefit from having hope, send them our way. If you are a practitioner or you know of a practitioner that is in alignment with our vision and mission, we would love to include you. We're a nonprofit organization, a new organization, 1 year old. So funding is always important. Donations are important. Even if it's a $5 or $10 a month recurring donation, that is significant, and that will go directly to supporting our practitioner network going live. A person could sponsor a person to go through the Optimal Being program as well. So you could buy my book. I recently published a book.
Share your book.
Yep. Here's a picture of it. It's titled Journey, A Mother's Account of Love, Loss, and Spiritual Healing. And one of the things that Journey did after his diagnosis to try to make sense of what was happening to him was he wrote. And so this book is primarily my account of the experience of going through just the complicated issues of mental illness, and then the unthinkable pain of suicide. But interspersed with the book is a lot of Journey's writing as well. And so it's a book that it's my hope that the book will serve as an invitation to begin having dialogue, but also give some direction to hope. And so if you're interested, you can buy the book on Amazon. You can buy it on our website as well. And just go to our website and peruse it. Right now, there's a place where you can sign up to volunteer. Our volunteer needs would be, they're vast. We're setting up teams to help with grant searches, grant funding, or have teams that are people looking for practitioners. There are a lot of ways to help, either time, money, or experience. We would welcome any of those things.
Cool. Yes. So go to their website, journeysdream.org, JOURNEYS dream.org. Check it out. If you go to the community, you see the link there for volunteer opportunities, collaboration opportunities. There's so many ways that you can help them with their mission and their vision, of making sure that people, at least finding resources, because so often we have something that's going on with us. And what's the first thing we do? We go to Google. How do I, whatever, where can I find whatever? And then what happens is when you have like a mental illness and you have all these thousands and thousands of tens of probably millions of places you can go. But Journeys Dream, they're getting it all in one place. So you only have to go to journeysdream.org, check it out, see how they can help you. And with that, Mitzi, thank you so much for, spending time today to share with us, Journeys Dream and sharing, the story of Journey. And I really do appreciate you. And, we'll do what we can to get the message out there and get more people involved. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. I appreciate it. And thank you, Linda, for the work that you're doing for humanity.
Thank you so much. And you have a great day.
Yep. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.